Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Sunday History Rewind. I'm your host, Jim Lumley, and today we're going to play a videotape from the 1960s, President John F. Kennedy's press conferences. You know, I once heard a historian that I admire say that in the 1960 Democratic primary, John F. Kennedy's base was the press, the news media. The members of the news media loved Senator John F. Kennedy, and they treated him with kid gloves. You could see this. There were, Kennedy's numerous affairs they were aware of, but they agreed to hush hush because they had so much affection for the 35th President of the United States. During the campaign in 1960 between Kennedy and Nixon, Kennedy botched an answer during an interview on tape. Kennedy botched an answer, and he asked the reporter, the interviewer, "Can I get a do-over?" And the reporter said, "Absolutely, Senator Kennedy." Imagine if Richard Nixon were to ask that. The press loved John F. Kennedy, and he was a likable guy. And so I'm going to play some of the short video clips from various press conferences, and it's interesting to see some of his answers. I think that today we can look back at Kennedy and Reagan and the way they handled the press and their smile and the fact that they injected humor as being very similar. I have a whole entire shelf books here in my library on John F. Kennedy. And I also have Profiles in Courage in all three editions, the senatorial version, the presidential, and the memorial edition. So let's enjoy this video together. It's not very long, but as we're having coffee on this Sunday morning, let's watch and harken back to some of the press conferences of our 35th President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
Mr. President, just shortly after the Bay of Pigs, I asked you how you liked being president. And as I remember, you said you liked it better before the event. Now you've had a chance to appraise your job. Why do you like it, and why do you want to stay in office 4 more years?
Well, I find the work rewarding. Whether I'm going to stay and what my intentions are and all the rest seems to me still many months away. But as far as the job of president goes, it's rewarding. And I've given before to this group the definition of happiness of the Greeks. I'll define it again. With full use of your powers along lines of excellence. I find that, therefore, the president provides some happiness.
You and your administration are mismanaging the news and using it to perpetuate yourself in office.
Well, as I've said before, I think it would be unwise at this time to answer or reply to Senator Goldwater. I'm confident that he'll be making many charges, even more serious than this one, in the coming months. And in addition, he himself has had a busy week selling TVA and giving permission to suggesting that military commanders overseas be permitted to use nuclear weapons, attacking the president of Bolivia while he was here in the United States, involving himself in the Greek election. So I thought that it really would be not fair for me this week to reply to him.
Could you tell us how many troops there are in Cuba, or Russian troops there are in Cuba now, and what
No, I don't think we can ever give a precise figure. All I can say is that the numbers have steadily been reduced. And in the last 2 months, there have been further reductions. And since the 1st of January, there's been a marked decrease in the number of troops in Cuba, according to all our intelligence estimates. I couldn't give you a precise number that is still there, but I can give you the general trend is outward.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Do you think that Premier Khrushchev has actually taken the Soviet Union out of the so-called moon race? And in any case, do you think that the United States should proceed as if there were a moon race?
I didn't read that into his statements. I thought his statement was rather cautiously worded. I didn't get any assurances that Mr. Khrushchev of the Soviet Union was out of the space race at all. I think it's remarkable that some people who were so unwilling to accept our test ban treaty, where there was very adequate area of verification, whatever the Soviet Union was doing, were perfectly ready to accept Mr. Khrushchev's very guarded, careful, cautious remark that he was taking himself out of the space race and use that as an excuse for us to abandon our effort. The fact of the matter is the Soviets have made an intensive effort in space. There's every indication that they are continuing. and that they have the potential to continue. And I would read Mr. Khrushchev's remarks very carefully. I think he said before anyone went to the moon there should be adequate preparation. We agree with that. In my opinion, the space program we have is essential to the security of the United States because, as I've said on many times before, it's not a question of going to the moon, it's a question of having the competence to master this environment. And I would not make any bets at all upon Soviet intentions. I think our experience has been that we wait for deeds unless we had a system of verification. We have no idea whether the Soviet Union is going to make a race for the moon or whether it's going to attempt an even greater program. I think we ought to stay with our program. I think that's the best answer to Mr. Khrushchev.
It's been a long time since a president and his family have been subjected to such a heavy barrage of teasing and fun poking and satire. I mean, there have been books on backstairs at the White House, and cartoon books with clever sayings, and photo albums with balloons and the rest, and now a smash hit record. Can you tell us whether you read and listen to these things and whether they produce annoyment or enjoyment?
Annoyment. No, they produce. Yes, I have read them and listened to them. Actually, I listened to Mr. Meader's record, but I thought it sounded more like Teddy than it did me. But
Mr. President, the Democratic platform in which you ran for election promises to work for equal rights for women, including equal pay, to wipe out job opportunity discriminations. Now, you have made efforts on behalf of others. What have you done for the women according to the promises of the platform?
well, I'm sure we haven't done enough, and I must say I am a strong believer in equal pay for equal work, and I think that we ought to do better than we're doing, and I'm glad that you reminded me of it.
Feeling in some quarters, sir, that big business is using the stock market slump as a means of forcing you to come to terms with business. One reputable columnist, after talking to businessmen, obviously, reported this week their attitude is, now we have you where they want you. Have you seen any reflection of this attitude?
I can't believe I'm where big business wants me. That's great.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, visitors who go out to visit Lincoln Park on East Capitol Street are dismayed to find it a slum. Congress has authorized, and the National Council of Negro Women will erect there a memorial stadium and a statue of the great woman educator, Mary Bethune. Now the transit company proposes to put an 8-lane freeway between the park and the Capitol, cutting it off. Could you inquire into that and see if the freeway could be put further out beyond the park?
Yes, I will.
President. Now
I guess this chimpanzee who was flying in space took off at 10:08. He reports that everything is perfect and working well.
Mr. President, you have said, and I think more than once, that heads of government should not go to the summit to negotiate agreements, but only to approve agreements negotiated at a lower level. Now it's being said and written that you're going to eat those words and go to a summit without any agreement at a lower level. Has your position changed, sir?
Well, I'm going to have a dinner for all the people who've written it, and we'll see who eats what.